going out into Jamaica onto stage with thousands of Jamaicans there, I was like, it was intense, you know.
I have Kingsley Ben-Adir, who plays Bob, and you play him perfectly, can I just say.
Thank you.
And the wonderful, well, you're wonderful, James Norton, who plays Chris Blackwell. First thing, which I'm sure you've been asked, but I'm going to ask you anyway, was about getting into the part of Bob. You know, you have films whereby, like Rami Malek, how he got into Freddie Mercury. There was Austin Butler and Elvis.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how you studied to get Bob, the moves, the expressions.
I feel like my process was very unique in the sense that after I auditioned, the family saw the tape that day or the next day, and they were involved from the beginning. I mean, the producers on the film, there is only a film because of the family, you know, and my process really was getting to learn about Bob on a human level, getting to know what he was like as a person, as a man in his private space with his family and friends and people. When I say family and friends, I mean people who grew up with Bob in Trenchtown, who knew him from when he was 13, 14. Those are the people that I was with. Those are the people who were sharing their experience of being with him and their memories of him and telling me, you know, so everything I learned about Bob, when I check it now, I didn't know nothing about him. I thought I did, like we all do.
Yeah.
We all know Bob. We all know a couple of the tunes.
Because we connect to the music,
Yes.
don't we? And there are things about the man that we do connect to, which I'm going to be very honest and say, I'm really glad that this film wasn't about all of his relationships and all of his children. It was more about a specific area of his life. He was very, very clear that he wasn't a political animal, but got caught up into a kind of a political energy. I was really pleased when your character, James, Chris Blackwell, when they were in the UK, just homed in on the Exodus album. I'm going to come back to you and have a chat about this whole thing with Bob. When it came to the Exodus album and when it came to why Bob was in the UK as well, Chris was quite instrumental with Bob's decision in that, wasn't he? And I also got a sense of it being more than a client-boss relationship. They were more like colleagues, weren't they?
Yeah, colleagues. There was definitely a friendship. There was a trust. I mean, I think a lot of their relationship, I imagine, was underpinned by the first time they met, and Bob and Peter and Bunny came into the Island Record office, and Chris in his book describes them as this thing, very confident. You know, just talks about them being the real deal, and he just lost Jimmy Cliff off his books, and these three men walked in with this. Obviously, the music spoke for itself, but their energy and their kind of charisma was such that he just gave them £4,000 and says, "Go and do it, go and record about, you know, go back to Jamaica and record what then came Catch a Fire." And I think probably for that reason, Bob knew this man. Got the music, got the fact that, you know, the priority for Bob was always the message. The music and the message can't be separated, is one of the lines.
Absolutely.
But you know, as the movie is sort of about, Bob really was nothing about the money or the fame or it was all about this kind of bit, and that's why the movie's being made now. Is, you know, you ask Ziggy, who was very much, you know, as King said, he was on set every day. He was our kind of producer. This is just a continuation of Bob's message, and right now we need it more than ever.
Absolutely. I love that Ziggy says when he saw your audition, he just knew. It wasn't somebody trying to emulate Bob.
Because you can't.
Absolutely. But you caught Bob's spirit.
You can't copy him. You can't copy Bob. What he was doing up there, you know, I got stuck on one of his performances at the Rainbow Theatre when I was auditioning. Couldn't stop watching it.
Absolutely.
You know, it's particularly War, when he's singing War.
Yeah.
And they upped the tempo that night, I found out. So all of the songs are a little bit faster. So the energy is really like something else. And I'm watching it going, I don't know what's going on up there, but it feels like dangerous, you know. Like he's an artist, you know, Bob's an artist, and he's obviously connecting to some sort of spirit. And so, you know, as an actor, you go, I'll have a go. Like, do you know what I mean? I'll have a go at that.
And you had to get in. I mean, there must have been times, Kingsley, when you thought, is he present? Was his spirit present with you on set?
Do you know what? I tried to listen to him as much as I could, and Sedella, Bob's daughter, sent me some files out of the blue. I opened it one day, and it was hours and hours of Bob talking that you can't get on YouTube. You know, you can't find them. So I was like, oh, well, this is going to be my process. I'm going to listen to these and I'm going to try and understand everything Bob's saying. And that's what I did. And there was so much Bob talk that, you know, I was like, how am I going to get through all of this? So I listened to Bob. And I know, and then after 6 months, you start to go like, Bob was very clear about what he wanted the world to know about what he thought in terms of his spirituality, in terms of his connection to blackness, his understanding and his connection to the suffering of black people all around the world, all of that. He talked about it consistently and he never changed his viewpoint. And I respect that about him. So for me, I forgot what your question was.
Kingsley will never say that Bob's spirit, you know, in answer to your question about whether he was present or not, I can testify to the fact that...
Did you feel it,
Well,
James?
I mean, we've got the man, I've never seen... I'm sorry, Kings, I know this makes you awkward. He worked so hard and went so deep. So on the first day of rehearsals, we all turn up and Kingsley gives a speech and he's like, this is what I think this film is about. It's not about what's on the page, it's let's find this man, my man. And then within a few minutes, he's speaking as Kingsley, and then he suddenly seamlessly switches into Bob's voice and starts speaking in patois, but not scripted lines, just riffing, preaching. Like literally, the man became possessed. Talk about this is pre-wig, pre-costume, and yeah, and we have Ziggy there in the room with us, who looks like his father.
Doesn't he just?
And we've got Neville Garrick, who's the art director, and so we have like this sort of family and this friends of Bob around us, and then Kingsley with the work and the commitment of how deep this man went. Honestly, I've never seen an actor do it. Yes, basically an answer.
The answer is yes. Bob's spirit was there.
I would say to Ziggy often on set, I go, because you listen to him so much and you know what he thinks and he's saying, you know, in a lot of situations, I go, what would Bob think about this scene? I was like, what would Bob think about this scene? You know, and I try and check it like that. And sometimes I couldn't find the answer. So then I'd have to go to Neville and I'd have to go to Ziggy, or I'd have to call up Stephen or Rohan or someone or Lego or anyone who knew, you know, because I just wanted to make sure, because Bob is so specific.
Yeah.
He's so specific. He's not an American dad, you know. You can't just put Bob in a movie. To find the nuance of his vulnerability, you know, as the tough gun, as the general, as the skip, you know, which is what they called him.
Yeah.
But he's also a beautiful poet and a humble, kind man. So he had all them colours. And that's really because he's a man from the ghetto, you know. So to find the vulnerability of that, you have to really check what his trauma was. And so I only got to understand that fully because I was with all of the people there. So when I talk about Bob's spirit, I'm really talking about what he went through as a man, you know, outside of all of this legendary status. And he was a musical genius for sure. But what does that mean? It means he wakes up at 5 o'clock every day and he picks up a guitar. His commitment to his craft was, you know, this idea of like chill out Rasta, you know, it's like, no, this guy was on work.
Yes.
He worked. He woke up. He had all them men running in the cold. They'd run, they'd stop, they were fasting. Bob was into self-betterment before it became a thing. You know, that's what I found out from the people who knew him, was that Bob was intense, man. Bob would he'd corner you and be like, what do you want to do? What's your goals in life? Like, you can be who you want to be. He was very inspirational in his life. So the feelings of like togetherness and unity and love and all of that, he really lived that in his personal life too.
It was very clear that when it came to being a political person, he was not on that radar, but he got drawn into it, didn't he?
Like all great artists, you know, he sung about and expressed, you know, the things and the suffering and the realness that he was seeing around him, you know, and then people start looking to you and then you just get dragged into it, you know.
Get
Bob was
labelled.
very clear. He said, he's like, I'm not a politician. But he had a point of view about things, you know, and so it was really tricky, you know, and he got mixed up in all of that, and the pressure that was on his shoulders at that time, you know. It's the same with Malcolm, you know, like you go like, wow, you study them for a bit, and you go, God, you guys must have been tired, man.
Yes.
Like that's a lot, you know.
It's a lot to carry on your shoulders, isn't it?
Well, it's mad that he was seen as this destabilizing influence when his message is all, you know, unity and one love and kind of inclusivity. I mean, it's mad. Yeah, we had a special moment with when we premiered the film in Jamaica, because obviously, you know, the final. Sorry, spoiler alert. But the one piece of Bob's story we know about is Michael Manley and Edward Seeger and the clenching of the hands, and Ziggy, when he presented the film, again, you know, as you say, he kind of fell into this political role, this sort of revolutionary, the CIA, and everyone felt kind of threatened by this man who ultimately wanted to bring people together, which is insane. Mm-hmm. But then when Ziggy presented the movie, in Jamaica. He was like, "This is the reason for why we're doing this film. We are here to continue my father's message, and here we are." And we had the Prime Minister of Jamaica in the room, and we had the leader of the opposition, and we had all these dignitaries, and he was like, "Look, here we are again. We bring and without even making it a thing, it was this sort of political. We had like many political people in that room, and all different kind of walks of life. It was lovely. So the message continues, and the unifying energy. It's mad.
Yeah.
I loved how his marriage to Rita was portrayed, because we all know that Bob had many relationships, and we all know that Bob had many children, but I just felt that his marriage to Rita, we needed to see that side of it. Do you know what I mean? There was a line in the film, and it still sticks with me, when he says to Rita, "Take the children and go to Delaware with my mother.
Yeah.
It's too dangerous for you to be around me."
Yeah.
And I just felt that was a loving man,
Yeah.
who was looking after his queen.
Yeah, full
know
of
what I
love.
mean?
Yeah, Bob was full of love. Yeah, no, I agree. I love that line. Yeah, that's one of those beautifully. I think Ziggy wrote that line, and sometimes you read things as an actor, and the words will just hit you. You don't have to do anything, And that was definitely one of them, for sure. And you go, a lot of the times when we were shooting the film, I was like, "Oh, this happened. This happened." When he's in the doctor's office, that was a mad day.
Oh my!
That was a mad day.
Let's come to that in a moment. And then coming to the UK, he and Chris get talking. Things start to elevate, and what is something that I'd always known, but it was good to see it in film form, was how much after the Exodus album, and by the way, that scene where Natural Mystic starts, where nobody knows quite what's going on, but Bob's thinking it, and then the bass line starts, and then it all comes together.
It's the first scene we shot.
Was it really?
Yeah. The first scene we shot. So I remember that scene has a real it's a really vivid memory for me, because I remember how I was feeling. That was the day when all of the family were there, and Neville was behind the camera, and no one's seen anything. And Ziggy did this prayer, in the morning, and we all huddled around, and all of the Jamaican cast were there who'd come over. And when I think of that scene, and the energy and the adrenaline, and everything was just about to start, and I was on a mad one. It took me 4 or 5 hours to come down, because I was playing Bob hype. He was hype.
Scene to start a film with them. No wonder
sorry,
that is
I cut you off. Sorry.
No,
Sorry.
that's fine. That's fine. The Exodus album happening. Bob wants to then go to Africa, but Chris says, "I've got a European tour lined up for you." And it's in seeing the responses to those crowds in Europe. Even though Bob, we know, was with Coxsone and he was in Jamaica, and it was that European connection that elevated him and gave him that worldwide recognition.
Yeah, I think for Chris, I think what the movie does well is it acknowledges that there is obviously a business behind Bob's success, and Bob's like, let's go to Africa. I want, there is no infrastructure. Chris says there's no infrastructure. Well, build it. That doesn't matter. I don't care about the kind of, the human limitations. This is the message, and it's bigger than us, and it's bigger than the music. But obviously then Chris is there in the kind of calm and good producer role that he took on, which was like, listen, there is a means to an end here. We need to hit these demographics, the college kids first, and then the message will ultimately be shared. So yeah, I think again, testament to how good this guy was at his job. Because
amazing.
Yeah, and we don't need to go to. What I love about the movie is Africa is so important to Bob.
Yes.
But we go there, but we don't need to go there. So Africa, I feel like, is a real part of the story, and Bob's need, his connection to Africa, and his feeling of being an African first, and his love of Marcus Garvey and all of that. We needed to make sure we don't have time to really explore it. It needs to be something that permeates the film.
We need to touch on it.
Yeah, it needs to be touched on constantly, because he was.
Couple of other areas that were touched on. It was mentioned that Bunny and Peter weren't too keen on Chris. That is a known story, but I'm glad that was kind of dropped in. The scene in Coxsone's studio with
my favourite scene. That scene, yeah. I didn't get to see it, so it was a surprise for me. Yeah,
Lee Scratch Perry, just
amazing.
him jumping up and down a little bit. Just in wrapping up, come on, what was it like going to Jamaica?
Awesome.
And getting into the spirit of 56 Hope Road, everything that Bob was about, where he grew up, his family, his roots, his mother. There was a scene with Norval, his dad, which we don't hear a lot about, but that was really touching. What was Jamaica like?
Hot. Hot. I dropped in. I was like, oh, when you're this hot.
with
Oh.
the wig.
You this hot with a wig?
Wig
No,
on, yeah.
it was wonderful though. I loved being there. I didn't when we were shooting. I'd been in Jamaica before, but when we were shooting, you know, you're busy, so like I got to spend time with the communities and the people on the locations that we were shooting in. So again, Trenchtown we were there for 2 or 3 days, and that was my favorite time because you know everyone's telling me it's going to be dangerous and all of this, and actually. The love there was so mad, you know. Like
the country and the people live that message of unity, and like, you know, they just opened the production with open arms, and not only that, but we had the Jamaicans with us in London as well, the musicians, you know, like Aston Barrett plays, Family Man's son, who is his son, and you know, Naomi Cowan, and all the, and so their energy. UK, I've said this a few times, UK studios and making a movie here, there's a rhythm to it. You kind of wait around between the cameras being, you know, turning off, whatever. With these guys, they're musicians, and they brought, oh my God, the rhythm and energy and like warmth, that Jamaican energy, they just kept playing. So every time we'd have a half an hour break, we'd take it to the green room, and it was the most alive set I've ever been on. There's just music everywhere.
doing the concert in Jamaica, that was mad.
Okay.
Because it was the last week. And I'm going out in front of thousands of Jamaicans because we've done all the Rainbow Theatre, but that's all like, you know, we were here doing it, and it was going out in front of the European audience. But going out into Jamaica onto stage with thousands of Jamaicans there, I was like, was intense, you know. And then we had all of some of the elder Rastas who were on stage with us were there, knew Bob.
Yep.
And they were really there. They were zoned in, you know, all day. There was certain elder men who were there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then 2 o'clock in the morning, they ain't moved. So every time I was going off stage to use the toilet and come back or there's a break, they're just not, just in silence. There was like it was a different energy, you know. And then I was going up just doing Bob speak to the audience just to kind of like let off some steam, you know. And then, but it was amazing. Surreal.
There were times, Kingsley, you got the moves to a T, to an absolute T. Now, coming off subject slightly, rumour has it you've both been tipped to be the next Bond. Is this true?
I don't know about this.
I don't know.
I never heard about it.
Okay. Apparently. Right, well, if you don't know, you don't know. Let's leave that one there.
It's very flattering.
But it would be amazing. One final word about One Love. If you could wrap up this film, if you could wrap it up in one word, what would it be?
Togetherness.
Okay,
Yeah.
James?
I mean, it's love all the way. I think, one love. There's not much
Love
else
and
to say.
togetherness, one love. Kingsley Ben-Adir, you were an awesome Bob Marley. You are an awesome Bob Marley.
Thank you.
James Norton as Chris Blackwell. Pleasure to meet you.
Likewise.
Really good to have you both here.
Nice to be here.
It's really, really
Yeah.
great to talk to you, and all the best. I hope this film goes from strength to strength.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.